Good evening. I'd like to call this meeting to order. It is Wednesday, October 23rd at 5 p.m. We are this evening in the city of Brookings to hold one of our off-site meetings that we, as a commission, promised the county that we would do as long as the weather held, and the weather has held, so here we are. I'd like to thank everyone for coming tonight. We have a busy agenda. I have right now 6 speaker slips, and I'll be taking 2 of them first, and then we'll go to some of the agenda items as well. If you would please rise and join me with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Commissioner Boyce, do you have a report for us?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, line of duty deaths, firefighters went up 2 to 46 line of duty deaths. Police officers went up 2 to 101. 2018 is a total of 165. So we're hopeful that with 2.5 months left, that will come well under that number. And by the way, military deaths, we didn't say 31.
Absolutely. Actually, we had 1 military death last night, a Lance Corporal in the United States Marine Corps died last night.
Sorry to hear that. That makes me 33. Thank you, Mr. Chair. You're over the silence, please. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Also, if I may, we lost a wonderful public servant in Gold Beach last week, recreation specialist Bob Hemus, the U.S. Forest Service. Passed somewhat expectantly, but had a tremendous battle. Just a wonderful human being. He will be tremendously missed. His service at the Perry County Event Center, Fairgrounds, one to 4. Bob Hemus. Again, he was greatly missed. Also, another moment of silence, which is good for him, sir. Thank you again.
Do we have any amendments to the agenda?
If I may, Mr. Chair, I just made a new friend. He is the project manager of the Brookings Head Start program, and we got acquainted a little bit, and he told me about his nonprofit project that he works, and just teams up with a lot of servants to the veterans, and they take care of post 911 wounded combat veterans. And he has filled out a speaker's slip, Mr. Chair, but I invited him down to let Curry County know about his organization and the good they're doing for the veterans. So that'd be to your approval, sir.
Okay. Well, what we can do is when we'll do public comments next, and what we'll do is we'll give you a little bit more latitude on your speaking time. Does that work out okay? I will let you be up first then, Mr. Weber.
And you brought some extra brochures for the audience if they would like. Okay, great. Thank you again.
Hey, my name is Jim Weber. I work with an organization called Divide Camp, which is up in 20 miles up in the mountains above Joseph, Oregon. We primarily host post 9/11 combat wounded vets. By doing that, we send them out into the wilderness to fishing trips, hiking.
They will pack a llama, they'll pack a goat, go up in the wilderness for 7 days. And we have a camp up there, 40 acres, which has log cabins that were built back in the 60s on it. We've refurbished them. They're all up to par with all the amenities now. Hot water, running cold, and everything. Our biggest concern, obviously, is we're a nonprofit, and we work on, nobody's paid, and we work on just donations. So I'm going to just speak and let you, some of the folks know what can be done. Vets come up there, there's no charge for anything from a vet. We brought vets all the way from Texas up there, paid for the flight, anything like that. We primarily try to work mostly with vets from Oregon, Washington, and Idaho, because that's what we're from. Our headquarters, we have a headquarters building in Joseph on Main Street. And I'm just trying to think what else.
Your website is dodgy.org.
That is correct.
If anyone wanted to go there
Everything is on
check it
there.
out.
Applications have to be filled out by the vets and emailed in. And we have a vet that looks those over, and then we never turn anybody down.
So we just work with them with their PTSD, and we just have found out that through coming together on their own, most of them come up there as a single person, without a wife, no children allowed at camp. Right now, wives aren't either. And when 4 or 5 of them come together from different areas of the country and all that, they go away with 4 or 5 new friends, and they realize that they're not in this all alone. That, we've got them, and then they've got other friends now they can deal.
Are female vets invited as well?
Yes, we've had 6 females up there, and they've gone on hikes up into the Eagle Caps for a few days and then come back, and then they'll have a writing or a writing class where we have somebody come up there and help them learn how to write what it is they're thinking, their thoughts on paper, and they really enjoyed that. We have archery, like I say, fishing, horseback riding, hiking. We run the Snake River for salmon and
Steelhead.
steelhead, yeah. Thank you. I'm not a fisherman, so I'm too busy working up there.
Sure.
But so anyway, I have pamphlets for anybody that's here that would
Okay.
like to get some information of it, and like I said, it's all on the website.
Well, thank you for your service on this. Our vets need a lot more attention than I believe they're getting, and
Exactly.
take a vet out in the wilderness and let him unwind, turn off all the noise around him and let him unwind for a week. This is great stuff.
Yeah,
so.
it's amazing when I talk to them after they come back. They're not the same.
You told a very, very touching story just 45 minutes ago about a triple amputee and the track chairs.
Right.
And
We have 2 track chairs, which are wheelchairs with treads, and they can control it with just a joystick on the handles. And we had a triple amputee that also had one finger missing from the only hand he had. He was able to shoot himself an elk this year, or
Wow.
about 3 years ago, out of the wheelchair. And to see that young man from Southern California, actually, never gone hunting in his life, and have him be able to do that was just, that's just something else. You can't
All right,
describe
the
it.
website is dividecamp.org if anybody wants to check that out. This is great stuff, and I really appreciate you coming here and sharing it with us.
Mr. Chair, Jim is also project foreman, as I mentioned, at Adroit Construction. He's done a heck of a job down there at the
We're
Head Start
about the
program.
farthest thing from Brookings in the state of Oregon, just from one
Joseph,
opposite
Oregon.
corner to the other opposite corner. So,
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you again.
Next up, we have Danny Padilla.
Thank you, and good evening, Commissioners. Thank you for allowing me to speak tonight. My name is Danny Padilla. I am the Park Manager for the Harris Beach State Park Management Unit, and that covers all of the state park properties from Kissing Rock down south to the California border, and then 9 miles up the Chetco River at Alfred A. Loeb State Park. So I wanted to notify you and your constituents of a change taking place next summer season at Loeb State Park. Currently, this park is a walk-in only park, meaning it does not take reservations, and that has worked well for many years. However, Loeb, like many other state parks in Oregon, are reaching max capacity during the summer months, to the point where it just makes sense to have reservations. By having our campground at Loeb on reservation system, we will increase efficiency in our park staff, so they can spend more time on preventative maintenance, cleaning facilities, and helping natural resources. We also will be able to make more visitor contacts and provide more information to our law enforcement partners. So that, to me, would increase public safety for not only our park, but our community. And then also by making the camping experience at Loeb available for everyone, not just folks that are within a 2-hour drive. I believe that they'll create more opportunities for our local tourism industry to present new customers, which will benefit our local economy. So the reservation period will be from Memorial Day weekend to the end of September, and we will still have some sites that will be walk-in only. Beginning January 1st of 2020, anyone will be able to reserve a campsite at Loeb during this period. A formal press release will be going out soon, but I wanted to announce it locally here first because I know and I understand how important this park is to all of the residents here. And I want to do everything I can to protect this wonderful Myrtle Wood Reserve, not only for the residents now, but for many, many generations to come. And I welcome any questions or comments from the public. They can absolutely stop by the park, email me, make comments online. And of course, welcome any questions or comments from you.
Commissioner Gold?
I'm just thinking about publicity, and are you just doing the press release and that's it? Or I'm thinking maybe we could get it on our county website.
That would be wonderful. Yeah, so our department in the media release, they're going to reach out to you, the Curry County pilot. We're going to put some information on our website, and then, yeah, I would love to put our information on your county website as well. Anything we can do to get the word out so that folks can be prepared and know of the change.
Yeah, I can think of some of the locals that might be upset about this, so.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much. We really appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
Congratulations on your course removal. It's a beautiful rock.
Thank you. Yep, it was a
Hard
great.
work. You
Yep,
did. Thank you.
great improvement. Thank you.
I have been reminded by our director that we did not approve our agenda, so may I have a motion, please?
So moved, Mr. Chair.
I'll second that.
Further discussion? Roll, please.
Commissioner Gold,
Aye.
Vice Chair Boyce,
Yes?
Chair Pash.
Aye.
Motion carried unanimously.
A little bit more, turn them down a little bit more, please. They're a little bit loud.
And I'm not even close.
How's that? That's a little better, yeah. All right, so next we're going to move on to the consent agenda.
Public comment?
Thank you.
No, public, we don't have any public comment right now for this. That's
Okay.
for later. Consent agenda will be, excuse me, I'm sorry. To approve employee transfer road maintenance and construction worker 1 to senior accounting specialist in roads. Approve termination of 2017 local agency agreement 32317 for South Bank Chetco Riverside roadside slide repairs. Approve chip rock quote 2020-2021 quote award with signatory authority to the roadmaster. D, to approve amendment number 3 to current contract 159808 CCH Curry Community Health. And E, approve credit cards for certain county employees, Board of Commissioners, and administration. Do I have a motion?
I move that we approve the consent agenda as written.
Second, Chair Pash.
Further discussion? Roll, please.
Commissioner Gold,
Aye.
Vice Chair Boyce,
Aye.
Chair Pash.
Aye.
Motion approved unanimously.
Next thing I'd like to talk about that we're in line for is 5A, which is special districts agreements. A month or so ago, Ms. Schmelzer and I went to visit the Chetco Library, and I appreciate you being here this evening. And we are, as many of you may or may not know, looking into special districts in the county. Well, I am. I don't know about everyone else, but I know I am. So I don't know if any of you know what if everyone here knows what special districts are, but basically special districts are a specific outline taxing district in the county of this, in which Curry County has 42. For a county of 23,000 people, that's enormous, an enormous amount of taxing districts. So what we're looking to do is look at each taxing district and how those districts are paid are through a publicly voted on tax rate that the voters in this county have already voted on. Some of these districts go back many, many decades, and they have never been looked at since they've been voted in. And the accrual on those percentages, because basically your tax dollars go up about 3% a year, and those accruals have begun in some districts to really overweight the district with cash reserves, and other districts, because they have not grown and the cost of doing business has gone up, those districts are now starving. For an example, the SWA campus here in Brookings, which has 8 full-time employees, gets about $2.2 million a year of your tax dollars. The entire general fund for Curry County gets $1.8 million. It's a little skewed. So we're wondering why we don't have full-time sheriffs. We're wondering why some of the districts in the county, like other library districts, are doing without, and some are flourishing. It's because and they were well thought. When these districts were first brought in, they were very well thought. And some of the districts grew faster. The Chetco Library District, Brookings, has become much more populated, I think, than the people that, when they wrote these districts, thought they may be by this time, where there are other districts like Agnes and Langlois that are suffering because the population there has remained stagnant for the most part. But again, the cost of business has gone up. If I were to run this county as a business, as my private business, and you see that one part of your business is over, you've got too much money over here. Maybe in advertisement, we've got too much money in advertisement, and somewhere else in my accounting office I need some more help. So I'm going to reallocate funds to do different parts of the county's business. And that's how I'm kind of looking at what we're doing here, is looking to find ways to work with certain districts that could possibly help us by reducing, rather than going to the voters in the county for a vote on this. Maybe we can get some voluntary work with districts to work with us and move some of this around, which, from what I understand from county council, is legal. The wording on this is quite broad, and if you would like to comment on that, council, since we're talking about that, I would invite you to do that.
I think what you said is a fair summary of my advice on this. So yes, I would support your statement.
Some people don't think that it's not possible to do this, and state laws do allow it, and it is the way to do it is quite broad. So what I'm interested in talking about this evening to this board is, and this is a public meeting, so you get to listen to it. When the district was originated, it had a tax base of $79,624. And in 1990, there was a ballot measure put before the citizens of Curry County and the tax base here for the Chetco Library District to increase that to $286,000. And that would be to do some expansion in the library, some holdings, to remedy some deficiencies, to increase some staff. So that money went, that increased from $79,000 to $286,000 per year. Now, on average, we're allowed to increase the districts 3% per year. So if you increase this district 3% per year over 20 years, over 29 years, which is since 1990 to current, that district should be receiving about $673,000, a library. What they actually got last year was $786,000. And this year they're up for another roughly $30,000 raise. This year they're going to get $818,000. If the 3% raise continues every year for the next 10 years, it will become $1.1 million. In 20 years, it will be $1.5 million. So we can see where not only does the taxing district, has it possibly, in my opinion, outgrown itself, and it is overfunded, but if we don't make some changes in some of these taxing districts in the county, there are some that are going to continue to flounder and fail, while others are going to flourish. Right now, the library district here, I have the resolution from the adoption of their budget, and their total adopted budget last year was $3.7 million. Their beginning capital was $2,795,000. The library basically has over $2 million in cash sitting in the bank, and I applaud them for that, actually, for wisely spending it. I'm not here, again, to pick on anyone. I'm here to make business sense to the residents of this county. and to hopefully have a relationship with these districts that are overfunded to work together to help other districts that aren't, and or to help other departments that aren't. As we know, our sheriff's department right now is on a skeleton crew. Yes, I've been told by John, our sheriff, that he's pretty much on a 7-day, 24-hour shift, but there still are some deficiencies. We have moved forward, this board has moved forward to fill some of those deficiencies, and we had to take that money from the road fund. And the road fund is a sacred little fund in this county, and it's difficult for me to take money out of a road fund to fund a sheriff's department when I watch districts that have so much excess that they could easily help with this. So what I would like to ask from the board is to consider this. The Chetco Library asked us for a formal, formally what we would like from them. And incidentally, I want to comment on a couple more things before I talk about that. I have newspaper articles here, and in my opinion, these articles, the biggest drag on government, county and state governments, are special districts. And what the consequences that special districts have in counties without properly managing them. And I want to say that the county commissioners are the ones that finally sat and came up with the language in these districts and the percentages that the districts should be given. And it's hard for me to understand how a district can be formed by a county government and then can never be touched without some kind of a formula, whether that be a unanimous vote on the board and a 2/3 vote on the district that's being challenged. How we can do that, I don't know at this point, and there's probably smarter people than I am that can figure that out. But what I would like to present to this board is let me make sure I've got everything in front of me so when I speak I know what I'm talking about. I would like to see this board ask formally for the Chetco Library for 3 years to give $250,000 a year to the Sheriff's Department. And as an earmarked, that's the only thing it can be used for. I would also like to see, and that would be for 3 years, I would also like to see the library give $50,000 to the Agnes Library and $50,000 to the Langlois Library for 3 years consecutively. And I've run some numbers, and Commissioner Gold, I know you're pretty good with numbers. And I want to say I like numbers as well.
Good.
And I want to say at the end of those 3 years, with the current rates that are being brought in through the library, there will still be at the end of those 3 years about $2 million of cash in the account of the library after paying out $1,050,000 is basically what it is. By the raises that the county is getting, or the district is getting from the taxpayers of the county annually, and by some of the other reserves and donations that are brought in through the library, I am estimating about $1.8 to $2 million will still be in your reserves. And I know at our meeting when we talked about catastrophes, maybe having to put a new roof on the library or a total remodel in the library, those kind of things. This would leave, by only doing it in steps of a percentage per year over 3 years, if a catastrophe were to be faced, then we could maybe possibly back out of that. There's ways for that to be handled, but it's something that I would like to bring to this board, that we would, like I said, the Chetco Library asked us for a formal ask. What would we like to see? And after all the homework I've done on this, all the investigation into the special districts, I count 9 districts in the county that I think are overfunded. I count 11 districts in the county that I think are underfunded. I count 4 districts in the county that could probably be dissolved. And then the rest are basically status quo. So I think as a first step on this district, I would like to ask the board to look into into doing what I've asked. And I'd open the floor up for comments. Commissioner Gold?
I'm going to reiterate that I don't think this is the way to go. Reason being is, for the Chetco Library, there have been many people that have given large bequests to that library. I know of one that was $1 million. Had that individual, or the individuals wanted to give to the county, they would have given the bequest to the county. Also, I'm not in disagreement that I think the districts are out of whack, but changing this really can only be done in two ways. If the board of directors of the library wants to put a ballot measure on and lower the tax rate, that could work. Or if a number of individuals wanted to get a referendum and put it on the ballot to lower the tax rate, that's how it could be done. So,
Well, and I have something else that I would like to ask as well, but I wanted to open the conversation with this because, you know, that I know you spoke of that large bequest from someone of almost $1 million before, and that money would still be in the account. There's still going to be an excess this year of over almost $3 million in that account. So that $1 million is still sitting there. If you took part of the $818,000 that they're about to receive from the tax cut from this year, $250 of that, you know, that bequest from those people is still in that bank account. Commissioner Gold?
I do know 1 year that the library board decided to lower the tax rate. I don't know whether they're, you know, going to be doing that again. That's up to the board. But each one of these special districts is like a little governmental entity unto themselves, and their board determines how to use that money.
And I agree with that, and that's why the next part of the answer to this puzzle, I think, is that I would also ask the board for the Chetco Library District to lower their rate to 3.42%. And that would keep them in line with where they were 6 years ago. And by having the cash reserves in their account, that would bring that district, what I imagine, into line for enough funding for the district and still be able to meet their obligations.
But you also have to keep in mind, if they do in fact lower that district, it does not guarantee that the county is going to get that money, simply because the only way the county can get the money is if we go to the voters and the voters say, yes, we want the county rate to be higher.
I understand, and what I'm saying is, though, if we can get them to lower their rate, then that money goes back to all the other districts. Well, we're starting here, so once we get to other districts, and hopefully those districts will voluntarily take that cut, then the districts that are suffering will get more funding because that additional funds will be put back into the general fund for the county, and then it's divided up, or not the general fund for the county, but the tax rate for the county, and then the assessor will divide that up to the remaining districts that are in need of it.
But bottom line, you're still going to have to convince the voters that that extra money needs to go to the county.
I'm not asking for it to I'm not asking for it to go to the county commissioner. To initiate this, I'm just asking if the Chetco Library move their rate down to 3.42%, that additional 0.8% would go back into the rest of the taxing districts of the county. I'm not asking for it to go into the county's general fund. I'm asking it to go back into the general districts of the county.
That's still not going to go into the taxing districts. That money saved will go to the taxpayers, the property taxpayers.
Please.
Mr. Chair, if I may?
Yes.
This is a good discussion. I commend you. Commissioner Gold, you've done your homework. Quick question before I have another comment, Mr. Chair. Are you basically recommending to the board that we ask 9 different taxing districts that, per your words, and I'm not agreeing or disagreeing, are maybe a little bit, I don't think the word excess is right, I'm not sure what you said, but I got your meaning, and you identified, you asked them to consider contributing for a 3-year period, 9 different taxing districts. Is that essentially what you mentioned?
In so many words, yes.
So if they're willing to volunteer, if they're not, Commissioner Gold challenged you to make the case that if that money was going to go back to the county, and why that would be justified, legitimate, valid, etc. So I'm going to offer this. The hardest part of my job, and I think you'll agree, you and I have not discussed this, but is bringing the county together. The cities, the citizens, diverse opinions, diverse personalities, people who've lived here a long time, people that haven't, trying to bring those people together. But our number one responsibility is public safety. You mentioned law enforcement. I think you can make the argument, we can make the argument as a Board of Commissioners, that we live in the most, forgive me, but I'm going to bring up fire, and it's important that I do. And the reason I kind of do a little apology there is because the level of risk that this county has, I think, is as strong as you can identify anywhere in the western United States, and the proof is in the 32-year history of the fires we've had here. We come so close to losing Brookings. We come even closer. I had fire on both sides of me at Agnes, as you know. So public safety, coming back to public safety, we have one paid firefighter in Curry County. It doesn't make sense to me. I don't know how to solve that, but I know we've got to sound the alarm. Maybe this is a way to go. I've put some additional revenue ideas out, and I paid the price. But I commended you last meeting, the courage you had to take this on. I'm not agreeing with it or disagreeing with it. I appreciate, again, the discussion. I just want to give the folks, the citizens, just a reminder that of the 15 firefighting districts that we have, 3 in the incorporated cities, Brookings, of course, Gold Beach, and Port Orford, and then 12 that are continually struggling for funds. They have to pay their own training, and it's getting to be an older group of mostly men, but some women that are volunteering, and we are exposed in this county. So in working with you and the board, my job, I think, is going to be to figure a way to bring those 15 firefighting districts, all volunteer, into one group that can be better trained, better protected, have better coverage, and I'm certainly not disagreeing with you on your stance on additional funds needed for law enforcement, and I thank you for that. That's all I have for now.
I see Ms. Howard in the audience. Is there air conditioning in here that works? It's a little stuffy in here, or is it just me?
There's a lot of hot air in here.
We really wanted your opinion, not the control.
Yes, there is, and let me see if I can make it work.
Thank you. So, and again, I am understanding, and I hope you understand, the commissioners understand that I am not afraid to bring something to a ballot to ask the citizens of this county. We're going to be having several of those things coming up in the next, hopefully in the next election cycle for different issues and things that we're facing in this county. I just hope the public realizes that we've got to find a way to pay the bills in this county. And you know, I'm told I'm thinking out of the box all the time, but you know what? Sometimes you have to get out of the box to see in it. And this is something that I believe we can deal with here. I'm hopeful that this board will agree to at least open that conversation up with the library so that we can sit and talk with them in a formal workshop. All I'm asking this board to do is at this time to approve a motion that we bring a formal draft of a suggestion to the library that will open up a conversation, and then we can have a workshop from there on getting together with the library and discussing this further. Commissioner Boyce?
Maybe I didn't give you a chance to answer. I just want to verify that in that proposal or consensus of the board today, even if it's a vote, you're asking that we ask those 9, request those 9 specific taxing districts to consider volunteering. Is that where you're going now, or something beyond that?
Today we are dealing strictly with the Chetco Library. I only dealt with this one, and I'm working currently on the Gold Beach Library as well. And then Director Schmelzer and I have talked about a few of the other districts in the county that are actually starving right now, and that we can bring up in coming weeks, but today
can you identify those today, or?
I cannot right now.
Okay, that's fine, that's fine.
So right now, I'm just asking that we, I'm asking for a motion. My motion would be that we ask the Chetco Library to give $250,000 a year for 3 years to the Curry County Sheriff's Department, and give $50,000 a year to Agnes and $50,000 a year to Langlois for 3 years as well. And we would present that to the Chetco Library to open up a conversation with them about this further. That's my motion. Do I have a second?
Discussion?
Discussion, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair Pash. Unless we identify the other 8 and put it under a volunteer category, I can't support just on one specific taxing district. Can't do it. So I won't second.
That's fine. Do I have a second? Then the motion dies without a second. All right, next we have 5B. Ooh. I wish I would have had public comment on that. I would have loved to have heard it.
Can we comment? I came down from Port Orford, and I can't get here before 5 because I was teaching, but I have a question, and
I'll tell you what, I'll open up public comment for 3 minutes to you, and you. Okay. Go ahead. I've got that over here.
Oh, hello. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can. Identify yourself, please.
My name is Maureen Trerbake, and I live in Brookings. And I'm a relative newbie. But if memory serves, the question has been asked and answered regarding funding for the sheriff's office. I was very supportive of it myself. A group of people got together, worked the numbers out, put a ballot together, and it was voted down. Okay, so this is not the first time that this has come up. The second thing I want to ask you about is, do you really think you want to go down the path of penalizing agencies that have done such a fabulous job raising and managing their money? I am a huge fan of the Chetco Public Library, and they are involved in some new efforts that I think are key to impacting the youth in our community, as well as adults. Some of those efforts are actually bridging the gap with the schools in terms of arts and music programs. I could go on and on and on about this subject, but one of the things that we suffer from here is that our kids aren't graduating at the rates that we would like to see them. I think the rate is something like 75%. Someone probably has a better number, but here's the bottom line, is if we can get kids doing music and doing it in partnership with the library and the schools, studies show that that kind of activity improves a kid's learning ability, okay? That is huge, okay? If you are able to improve your graduation rates, if you are able to provide activities for kids, which that's another big gap for us in our rainy weather. These kids don't have anything to do. Providing those activities gives them an opportunity to make better behavioral choices. So, for example, could we impact the suicide rate here in the county? Thank you. Could we impact the level of opioid use we have in the county? So those would be the kinds of things that I think you should think about. The other thing I just want to say, and I know I only have 30 seconds, but I'd like you guys to really think outside the box. Don't just go and raid, like raid is it's an unfair word, I'm sorry. Don't go in and penalize guys that are doing a good job raising and managing money. Your job is to find a way to generate revenue. How are you going to attract a software company to bring their engineers from Redmond, Washington to Curry County, because it's beautiful here and it's got a great cost of living? What can we do to do that? That's the box I'd like to see you guys work in, is revenue generation, not shuffling.
Thank you.
Phoebe Skinner, Gold Beach, Tomcat Hill Road. Listening to your presentation and conversation today, there were several points that came up. The one I have here in my notes in bold, and you were discussing it, Commissioner Gold and Commissioner Pash, that I still don't quite get, is how lowering the tax rate for a special district, I think, I forget what the number was, 3 points, whatever, it was 8.8%, I think is what you ended up with.
Basically, yes.
That wouldn't go in the county or other special district coffers. That would just stay in my checking account.
There's a way we're going to have to do the vote.
Okay, so I think that would have to be explained clearly, because that statement didn't make any sense at all. So I think that might help the discussion further. In addition, it sounded like you were talking about making special districts rely on donations as part of their things, and I know there have been some successful fundraising done, but requiring a government entity of any kind to require or to rely on donations seems a bit extreme. In addition, the proposal that you have specifically for the Chetco Library, it seems that $50,000 additional for the Agnes Library would be something that would be excessive for their budget, and that would be something to discuss with our board, and I'm not sure if you've met with their board when you were putting those numbers together. Let me look. I'm used to talking in front of teenagers, not a bunch of adults. There was one other note here that I had that I did, if I have time, want to mention. I guess actually it's kind of a general thing, and it's hard, and I'm a newbie to Curry County. I'm not at over 6 years, but I grew up in Josephine County, and I think one of the hardest things, and I studied political science in college, is this idea of why. Why are people giving money to the special districts and not the county in general? And I agree, raising revenue is important to the county, and that's your job, but I think there's a bigger job to paint a picture that people want to buy in and be a part of, and supporting the county government as a whole. And I think that I would really like to see, and I would be willing to help with that. I know a lot of people would be willing to help our county be in a position where when we put something on the ballot, people are like, yes, I trust that that money is going to be managed well, and then I can support that. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you. Anyone else on this subject? Real quick, yes.
How much time do I have?
About 3 minutes.
Okay.
You're Mr. Skinner from Gold Beach.
Jeremy Skinner, Library Director, Curry Public Library, Gold Beach, Oregon. I guess one simple statement, which she alluded to, but I'd like to make it clear. If we're talking about, in any case, redistributing tax money that's been voted on by one populace to go to another purpose, particularly, well, any purpose, but to another library, I think if somebody wanted to attend a public session at one of the library districts, public meeting, and propose that, then the board could consider that. But the reality is that our boards are under the expectation that we're serving the taxpayers that are paying our taxes. And I mean, I can't speak for the boards, all the boards, but I'm pretty sure that there's no way they could ever consider anything other than having the money stay within their taxing district and go towards the purposes by which they've been elected to govern. And so, you know, and this is just a personal opinion, but I would say let's consider putting it on the ballot to repeal the taxing districts, because that's actually what we're talking about. Because we're also kind of talking about making decisions without talking to libraries about library operations and what different libraries need for their operations. That seems extremely reckless. I think that honestly, like, if the real concern is that that money shouldn't be going to libraries, then maybe what we need to consider is actually putting something to the voters, which is how this whole thing is structured. So that's really all I have to say.
Thank you. And I would like to say, comment on that, I would hope my research into this hasn't been reckless. I've been pretty diligent in doing what I've done on this. I'm watching, I know how to read a budget. I know how to read someone's tax returns that you provide to the county. And I know how to read what your budget hearings offer. I'm looking at personnel services from $384,000 in 2017-18 to now $602,000 in 2019. So there's almost $220,000 personnel services have gone up in the library. These are questions that I would hope to have with each district that I read off of their budgets, so I'm not being reckless. I would hope they would offer to meet with this board and whoever to discuss these kind of things so that we can find out how best the money is being spent. That's fine. I just want you to know that I didn't just walk in here today and say, I want to talk about this, and I have a feeling that a lot of people here think that I'm doing this out of distaste or disdain for any particular district, and I am certainly not. Again, I'm looking to pay the bills in this county, and if anyone in this room can understand that some of our districts are flush with cash, and yes, it's been some good management, but when you've got a district that goes up every year, you can count on another $40,000 or $50,000. No matter how you spend your money, you don't have to tighten that waistband a little bit when you know the rest of the county is suffering, and people in different parts in different areas in Brookings area are suffering because their district hasn't grown as much. These are things that all I'm saying is we have to look at and we have to find answers to. I'm not asking for a line in the sand right now. I'm just asking to open up conversations. So I didn't get a second to my motion, so I will work more on this and hopefully have something in the future for the board. Unless the board doesn't wish to deal with the districts and how we pay our bills, then I won't bring it up anymore at all. I'll just sit in my office and do nothing. Yes, Ms. Commissioner Gold.
I think maybe a better way to approach this is look at the state laws and show them how everything's kind of out of whack, and maybe we need to look at the state law that dictates how the districts are run. I think that would be a better approach rather than going after each individual district.
I thought the good approach would be to get with the districts as a board of commissioners that are elected, to sit with their boards that are elected in a friendly, quiet meeting and discuss the districts rather than get all mudslinging as we've seen in ballot measures in this county and start pointing the finger at everybody. Perhaps sensible minds could sit together and say, look, this is what you have, this is things you could do, and would you please do that? And if not, then you go the other way.
I'm not looking at ballot measures in the county right now. What I'm looking at is possible state law to look at the whole picture. Well, my guess is there are other counties that have this same problem.
There are, and most of them are done through a vote. The commissioners that I've spoken to have basically been afraid to challenge it, as when you and I started, when I started in January, I think it was in February, I looked at you and you said, you know what, I agree with you. Some of the districts, special districts in the county need to be looked at. But boy, is that an uphill push, and I don't think you'll get anything done on it, is basically what you said. And I took that challenge, but here we are. I will say there's plenty of information out there on the internet, and contact constituents throughout the county, contact your state leaders, your federal lawmakers. The biggest drag on why governments are failing in this nation right now are special districts. I think there's 908, well, it's not important at this point.
Is this unique to Oregon?
No, it is not. It is nationwide. The biggest reason that special districts or that local governments are failing is because of special districts and the consequences they have on the tax base. In the United States, there are 90,000 plus local governments. 90,000 plus local governments. There's only 19,519 cities of those 90,000. There's 38,000 special districts that draw from the tax base every year. And without question, and without the voters saying enough is enough, that tax base goes up in Curry County basically 3% a year. All right, with no motion, then I'm going to move on. With no further discussion, 5B, repeal of ordinance 1807, Commissioner Boyce. And we do have some comments on this after.
You want the comments now?
No, why don't we go ahead and hear your presentation first, and then we can have comments.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This bill, our resolution, has basically sat dormant for 2 years. No taxing districts have come to us and asked for help. Most of the districts are with volunteers, so if you look at the several pages of requirements of this bill, I'll just refer the public back to the first page of House Bill 3435, that the security is to pledge the operating tax revenues of the borrower, taxing district, or county as security for repayment, and that can go up to 20 years. It's really tough to get any more strict than that. Mr. Chair, I would like the board to send a message out to the citizens of the county that we're here to figure a way. It's an attitude. It's a philosophy in how we want to run this government. I think we both agree that we want to be known for a precise corporate structure where we stop losing money. And we started that in January of this year, stop losing money. And so if I could just use the Port of Brookings, for example. Right now, if they wanted to come and ask us for a loan, we'll just say arbitrarily here, 3%. Right now, well, a year ago, with the local government investment pool, we were getting less than 1%. We were getting less than 1% a year ago. Now we're getting about 2.6, and it fluctuates. So we're probably both right on that. The point is this: that's a good deal for the road department. It's a good deal for the Port of Brookings Harbor if we learned and determined that that was in the best interest of the road department, the citizens, and the port. And I'm using them for strong examples because they need help. That might generate federal matching money. We had them in our office or at our hearing room last week. It was a very productive meeting. I couldn't extend enough gratitude to the Port of Brookings Harbor board members for traveling to Gold Beach, telling us their issues. I mean, they're getting incredible amounts of aggregate coming down the Chetco River and the small tributaries. And so if they came to us, and most of them are volunteers except for one, and we showed them the 9 pages of requirements for this loan, instead of saying, hey, we're going to look at this case by case, this is what we think we can do, this is the interest rates, this is the security, the collateral of this loan. It's as solid as it can be, and that's the way through the House that this was set up, including the requirement that they report to the Oregon Municipal Debt Advisory Group. So I don't think anybody's going to try and make a legitimate loan that we can extend help against in that spirit of cooperation that says, hey, we're going to figure a way to help you. We won't do high-risk loans, but with the security you have, the taxing pledge, and the money you'll have coming in the next 20 years, you just can't get better security than that. So let's create something here that says it could be the city of Brookings, it could Port Orford, Langless, Harbor, all have water issues. If we give them a 3 or 4% loan, something reasonable, and they could take that and match with those funds, I mean, they've got a county that's supporting them. They've got a county board of commissioners that are supporting them. I'm not going to promote any kind of high-risk loan, but I want to position this board to do our job, in my view, Mr. Chair, and look at every individual loan and application and make it easy for them to come to us and get a quick yes or no answer. And it's based on the collateral. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Gold?
So I'm looking at our ordinance. What specific problems do you have with the ordinance?
Well, one place, Commissioner Gold, says you can't make any other loans. Why would we put ourselves in that kind of position?
Where is that? What section?
Be right with you there. It's section 7.01.130 County Remedies for Default, bar applicant from applying for future loans. Just look at those 5 categories and tell me that sends a spirit that we're here to help. We're here to look at your situation and contribute to a good policy that can help you get additional money, that can solve your problems. Can you imagine if the Port of Brookings Harbor actually collapsed and we stood by and watched when we have a great option to benefit them? I hope that answers your question, Commissioner Gold. Thank you.
Well, if these entities were to go to a bank, they would have to fill out loan applications. I know that was one of your problems, that the folks would have to fill out an application, or the districts, and...
Excuse me if I may, that was not a problem. That's something that would be under preferred future amendments, I would assume. I'm not promoting that they wouldn't fill out a loan application, so that's not accurate. And if they went to a bank, if I may, I interrupted you. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
That's okay. I just think they need to be credit-worthy in order for us to do this, because the road funds, if there were a big event here and we had loaned out this money to various entities, we cannot go back to those entities and say, pay up today, because they probably would not have that. So, and $30 million, which is what we have, if we had a big event, it could wipe it out in nothing flat. So.
You know, if it comes to that kind of almost desperation, we're going to be dealing with a lot more than whether it's a 3% loan or a 5% loan.
Okay,
It'd be dark days.
At this point, I'm going to open this up to public comments, and then we'll talk a little bit more about it after public comments. David Barnes.
Good afternoon. I'm David Barnes. I kind of thought this died back in September, the last time it was brought up to this board, and I'm surprised that it's being heard again. I've looked at 3435, and I've looked at our ordinance 1807, and there is nothing in our ordinance 1807 that is not included in House Bill 35. Our ordinance is no more difficult than filling out a loan for a car, to buy a car. You know, House Bill 3435 says you need your name, you need why, you need how much, you need the terms, and you need the rates. Ours says the same thing. You know, House Bill 3435 says you have to prove your credit worthiness. Our ordinance says the same thing. I don't, you know, at the last meeting, I thought this panel decided that if we ever got an applicant for this money and they came to us and said that this was too onerous a process and their financial people could not figure out how to fill out the loan application, that then this board would revisit it. But until then, that it would sit as it was. And like I said, I'm very surprised to see this on the agenda for this evening again. I thought this was already settled matter. Thank you.
Teresa Lawson.
I already read your letter. It's very good.
Okay. Teresa Lawson, Brookings, Oregon. Repealing Ordinance 1807 or Article 7 without any replacement is premature and fiscally irresponsible in protecting Curry County assets. This proposal states Commissioner Boyce wants to remove this ordinance and offer possible future preferred amendments. Until such time as those future preferred amendments are presented and voted on, the existing amendment should remain in effect. The road fund currently has approximately $30 million. This sounds like a lot of money, but we are spending more out of this fund than we are taking in annually. And during the September 4th Board of Commissioners meeting, Richard Christensen, the county roadmaster, said at the current rate, this fund could be depleted in less than 10 years. At the same meeting on September 4th, the following references are in the minutes concerning the lengthy discussion on Article 7. Commissioner Pash emphasized the need for the board to be very good stewards about the road fund, to make sure all I's are dotted and all T's are crossed, to not cut any corners on this, and to comply with the process. Commissioner Gold stressed the board has a fiduciary responsibility, Citizen David Barnes stated that he does not believe the ordinance is that onerous, and County Director of Operations Julie Schmelzner stated that the process is not cumbersome. I am on 2 nonprofit boards and am applying for grants that are not loans and do not have to be paid back. The application for even several $1,000s requires similar financial information. In the case of loaning several $1 million of county road funds, great care must be made to assure the county won't need these funds and that repayment will be assured. There has been much discussion in our county about loaning from the road fund. This is an issue that citizens are deeply concerned about. The Hooskanoggan slide last winter reminded us once again how vulnerable our county is to major road failure from heavy storms that are common. When taking on large capital road projects, grant money can be available. However, those grants require matching county funds. If we do not have the matching funds, we cannot obtain the grants. Loaning money from the road fund may be in the county's overall best interest, but it must be done in a careful and financially responsible manner. I would not cancel my homeowner's insurance so that I can look around and consider a replacement insurance. That's what we're talking about here. It's been a year since Article 7 was approved last November, allowing plenty of time to present any changes that the commissioners felt were needed. Much detail and thought was put into developing this. The same must be done to replace any portion of it. I have read Article 7 multiple times and find it very fair, reasonable, and fiscally responsible. It is consistent with standard business loan applications. The people of this county have expressed great interest and concern regarding the road fund and loaning money from this fund. The citizens of Curry County know that the road fund is a vital part of assuring that the county can provide safe and quality roads. It's vitally important and must be protected. Thank you.
Thank you. Candace Mishi? Well,
Michelle.
M-I-C-H-E is what I have.
Michelle, there
Okay.
should be an L at the end of that.
Oh, okay. Candace Michelle, good evening.
Good evening. The money collected by the county in my property taxes each year is supposed to be spent in a certain way, as is written in the yearly budget. Putting safeguards into effect that protect those funds and their budgetary allocations is called fiduciary duty. It's not in the taxpayer's best interest to attempt to circumvent or repeal any safeguards that have already been put into effect. The road funds are going out much faster than they're coming in. Please protect that money and spend it where it's budgeted, especially as we head into the winter months. Do not lend any money, my money, without strong safeguards in place. Please, we're not a bank.
Thank you. All right, that's the end of the public comments. Commissioner Bush, you have anything further on this?
Well, just, there's been a couple references to being a bank, and yeah, thank goodness we're not, because we are a close community here, close communities, and so I'm just going to stress again that I'm confident the requirement for the collateral, for the security, is more than adequate, and it would be irresponsible to not support that and take advantage of that. So again, trying to bring the county together, trying to find every possible way to affect change and to, as you state, Mr. Chair, pay the bills. There are some districts out there that at some point are going to need our help. And maybe it's just a philosophy, again, a spirit of just to simply go, hey, if there's any way we could make this and absolutely take it to the citizens as a viable loan, not at the end of the budget time, several $100,000 here or there so we can balance our budget, but an actual legitimate loan that's a reasonable interest rate and tells the world, we're in business here, we got our act together, we're making good decisions, and that's our responsibility. And I think that this will promote and I'll make a motion if I may, Mr. Chair, to repeal this and start over on this county ordinance 18, oh my goodness, I already forgot, 1807? Is that the right one?
Yes, it is.
Thank you.
Well, like I spoke several months ago, I was not against doing loans out of the road fund, but the bar would have to be extremely high. Like I spoke about with the possibility of the emergency room down here, because the state had already posted that money into an account, and we thought we were going to get the money much sooner than it turned out we were. I would have probably leaned toward doing something with the emergency room on that because the funds were guaranteed through the state. I am a protector of the road funds, and I don't personally find 1807 cumbersome. I've read through it. I told you several months ago that I would, and I have read through it, and I do not find it cumbersome, and therefore I cannot vote for a second on this motion. So Commissioner Gold?
I concur.
So you and I are going to be 0 for 2 tonight so far, huh?
I guess. All right, so for lack of a second, we'll move on to 5C, HB 2377, and workforce housing discussion. Commissioner Boyce.
Thank you again, Mr. Chair. I am proud to hold up some paperwork here, not just paperwork, but committed support of our Curry Emergency Housing Declaration. First, from the City of Port Orford, resolution number 2020-05, supporting our goal and our work towards that housing emergency declaration. I think I reported last, and then Brookings, resolution number 19R 1167. Can't thank you all enough. Gold Beach resolution R1920-03. These are all, Brookings is a page and a half, Port Orford a page and a half, Gold Beach 1 page. And so it's one more step towards us understanding the housing issue, how to overcome the lack of workforce housing, middle-income housing, low-income housing. I really feel like I just want to give them a shout out, because that is I think I mentioned in the last meeting that Greg Wolf from AOC Regional Solutions, he said that Curry County right now, especially with the support we have from the cities, is ahead of any other coastal county in understanding this problem, working towards solutions, other than Tillamook County, and they're about a year ahead of us, and I'm working with the commissioners there to learn all I can, and they couldn't be more helpful. So 2377 basically tells a potential, and this is a 2-year-old bill also, Representative Brock Smith, as you know. It's a bill that basically says to the developers, here's the incentive for a potential 10-year tax break. If you will build through eligible rental property, multi-unit programs, it can just be 2, through our planning, through the city's efforts, planning, building, encouraging them to do more than just 2 units. I'm asking the board for consensus this evening to simply say, yeah, we can get behind this. We can get the word out through our staff that this is and has some very good benefits to potential landlords. We know that rent controls are all of a sudden extremely heavy in California. It is a disincentive. It's been through this legislature just last, clear January through June. More rent controls, and it scares potential developers, landlords off, and that hurts our people, and it hurts at the bottom the worst. And so just a simple matter of passing an ordinance or a resolution for this, Mr. Chair, in support. And as a reminder to the community, we're open for business. We're going to try our best to solve this problem as soon as possible. So I ask for the board's support on that. Thank you.
Mr. Barnes, you have your hand up?
David Barnes again. I've read House Bill 2377 also. I have it in front of me. I find it kind of strange that after the conversation that we just had over these special districts, that this board would now, you passing a resolution is only the first and by far the easiest part of this. What is required in order for this to become the law of the land in Curry is that taxing districts that equal 51% or more of the total tax base need to vote to approve this. The reason being that after you do this, they're not going to get any more money. So you're essentially freezing the amount that the taxing districts would get off of new construction. There are no taxing districts which comprise 51% of the vote except for the school districts. I have a hard time believing that you're going to get a school district to vote to not get additional revenues from construction and rehabilitation when they're the ones who are likely to suffer the most of it by having more children in their classrooms. You know, you're asking them to give away money that they need for schools. As we just heard earlier, we're graduating 75% of our kids down here. I think it's rather improper of this board to ask to go to a school and ask them to give up money that they need to educate the children and put it towards low and moderate income housing. I think that's just a bad idea. I don't think it's going to go. You know, I'm just reading from what it says in the bill here. You know, and another thing is that, as Commissioner Boyce said, this is 10 years, but it's not a full 10 years now. This bill was passed in the beginning of October of 2017. That means there's only 8 years left on it. This bill sunsets in 2027. So right now, your 10-year tax break that Commissioner Boyce mentioned is only an 8-year tax break, I believe. Mr. Huddle has his hand up.
If I could, Mr. Chair.
Yes, Counsel.
It's been a while since I actually looked at the text, but I think they tried to address that in the text. And I think in the text it says, if you get an approval of a district within this 10-year window, that taxing district break can last for the full 10 years. I'm not sure. I thought they tried to finesse it. So even though this bill sunsets in 10 years, a district that's created would still get a full 10-year break. But I don't have it in front of me, but I had to look at that a few times, Mr. Barnes, and I think that's what happened and how they wrote it, but I don't have it in front of me. And
Okay.
I mean, it's up for discussion.
I read it a different way, but, you know, it's when you look at, you know, our biggest problem with not getting people building housing here isn't that we're not giving them tax breaks. The average cost of new construction in Curry County is $125 to $150 a square foot. Okay, you want to build an addition on your house, it's about $125 to $150 a square foot. You go down to Santa Rosa, California, it's $300. Builders down there are getting $300 a square foot, you know, for just standard construction. That's our issue, you know. Why build here when you can earn, why would I want to work somewhere if I can work somewhere else and make twice as much money? Okay. So, you know, I believe that's really our biggest issue with attracting building here. Thank you.
Well, I will be honest with this board. I have not really read the full House bill and chewed on it long enough, and I would like to put this, move this out for our next meeting. I'm sorry, Director.
Well, I just wanted to add that when we had our housing workshop, it was discussed that County Council look at crafting a draft ordinance for the board to review. So I was just, and I know that he's been working on that, I was just going to suggest that perhaps we postpone further discussion until that ordinance is completed.
Oh, the ordinance, I submitted it to you prior to the housing workshop, and it's been actually submitted to the agenda, but the assessor wanted to look at it, and we haven't heard anything back from him. The issue with the ordinance is it puts a lot of work on the tax assessor. So, and I've sent it to Representative Brock Smith, and he didn't have anything other than favorable things to say about it. So you've had the ordinance since before the housing summit, and I think it was actually submitted for an AGRS, but then the assessor asked for additional time, and we haven't heard anything back. So I don't have any more work to do on our ordinance.
Okay. So basically, if we could just postpone this discussion until we have that ordinance in front of us to look at.
We could do a workshop on the ordinance. That would be probably the most beneficial thing.
Related to 2377?
Yes.
Okay. I have one more comment.
Yeah, because there's also some things I'd like to talk about on this, you know, applying for tax credits and then selling them to contractors, kind of things. We can do with some of that stuff as well, so.
Now we're talking. You know, yes, we got to compete with Santa Rosa was just referenced there. They can make double the money, but it's not Curry County, and nobody's coming to rescue us. This is one small step forward that says to the world, hey, we've got a serious housing shortage here. just talking to the Pacific High School principal yesterday, doing her best to recruit teachers. Doesn't have a place for them to live. And she looks at me and says, you got any solutions? I said, we're working on it, and I know what you're up against. Same with the Sheriff's Department. Same with healthcare providers. Same with, yeah, all the above. So we got a chance here to make a difference. We just got to get off our duffs, and thank you for the workshop opportunity.
I would direct Director Schmelzer to add this to our next workshop.
Sure.
All right, so we're going to get on to Director's report. Ms. Schmelzer.
Okay, it was shared with me that it is Charity Fraud Awareness Week. So
Say that again, please.
Charity Fraud Awareness Week. So we have been somebody has provided us some information in case the public wants to review that. One is just basically things somebody should be aware of or look out for. Another one was a link to irs.gov where you can look and see who is tax exempt and who's not. So if anybody's interested in that, just let me know and I'll forward that information to you. Regarding districts, special districts, we are going to have to discuss one of the cemetery districts coming up. We have tried to fill that board. We received one person, we appointed one person. They still don't have enough for a quorum. They're not able to pay the bills, and somebody is waiting to put an urn in that cemetery, and we can't get any responses or discussion on that because there's not a board. This has been going on for several months now, so we need to really address that. So we'll be bringing something forward at the next meeting for discussion on that. I know one of the conversations I had with the Parks Department was possibly offering that some of these cemeteries actually fall under the Parks Department. That's what some places do. So that is something to discuss, but that's for another day. I just want to bring you the awareness of that. Also coming up on the next...
Start some bad rumors, though.
Also coming up at the next agenda is discussion on the office hours and having the county open for business Monday through Friday. As you know, we've approached that subject before. We were asked by one department to withhold enforcing that. I'm going to bring that back for discussion. In the meantime, we have had another department voluntarily commit to being open on Fridays. Just for the public, I want everyone to know that many of the offices are open Monday through Friday. Some of them are not. Some work 410s. The Building Safety Department, we actually had an employee say, hey, I'll change my hours so that we can be open on Fridays. So if somebody wants to drop applications off to Building Safety or Planning, they're now officially, as of this week, going to be open on Fridays. Just for the record, this is the last meeting that we have in Brookings for this year, and we'll start meeting again in Brookings in spring. Anyone who wants to know what that meeting schedule is, it is out on the county calendar. We were made aware that the way we're doing budgets has, the state changed the process about 6 years ago, and we did not update our practices to reflect that change. So the state actually is doing a pilot program. They picked 15 jurisdictions where they will like to come down and provide education and instruction on budget law. So they have offered that to our county. So I'm working on scheduling that. Right now it looks like it would be December 10th. Charlene Harvey has been working pretty diligently on that. But we'd like to open that up to our cities and our ports to see if they would also like to come and participate in that workshop. We'd open it up to all department heads and to the commissioners as well, and the elected officials. And we've had some conversations with the port. We had a workshop with them last week. I just want to follow up with you and let you know that tomorrow Josh from Parks and I will be meeting with the port to discuss the idea of how the county can help with the RV at the port. And Rich and Rhodes has reached out to them as well to help develop a plan that once that plan is in place, we can then use to apply for funds to help with some of the work that needs to be done down there. And Jeremy Dumeyer has followed up since that meeting as well, along with some ideas that could help down with that port. So that's been moving really well. In a couple months ago, I talked to you about the need for space. I've been researching alternative space or way we can provide space for more offices, especially have satellite offices, if possible, in the Brookings area to provide better service to the people down here. If we can find that it's cost effective to provide those services, we have found somebody who is willing to lease us office space, doing some research on what those lease rates should be and whether or not we can afford to provide that service to the residents down here so they do not have to drive to Gold Beach for those services. So I'll keep you updated on that as that progresses. A lot of our discussions regarding community health and behavioral health will have an influence on that plan as well, I think, as we move forward. But I will keep you updated on that. And that's all I have.
All right, I don't have much to say. I just want to let everyone know that, you know, many of you in the county may know that we are kind of up against the wall with Curry Community Health, and we are currently in talks with them over some sticking points in the county. We want you to know that public safety is one of the most important, if not the most important thing on our list, to make sure that the citizens of this county are protected, and with not only our sheriff's department and police, but also our health. So we are working on that. I want to also say that through NACO, I want to reiterate down here that there is now a Veterans Treatment Court that is taking cases, and it is retroactive for 1 year. There are people that can help to, through the justice process, for providing treatment rather than our incarceration, and you may want to talk to your local VA on that. And there's also, I wanted to announce that we have found that the Department of, HUD basically is saying now that veterans' homelessness has decreased 5.4% in 2017-18, and they're expecting up to 10% of decrease for 2018-19. So those are good numbers. Also want to let everyone know that the river down here, as we all know, has a lot of rock in it that normally isn't there. We've seen an inordinate amount of rock in the Rogue River as well. This board is working diligently with agencies throughout the state and federal government to clear that rock. I've been in constant contact with Ray Blucher in Washington. He's been in contact with the ports. There are some things going on currently right now. Congressman DeFazio just introduced a new bill, I think it was yesterday or today, to provide more funding strictly to clear the ports and actually going up into the river somewhat in the danger areas. And Senator Merkley's office is addressing some of this as well. So there are some things taking place right now to clear out the mouths of our rivers farther than just the ports and get some of the sediment and rock out of there. And I will keep you informed on that. That's all I have. Commissioner Boyce.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Feels good to be in Brookings. Thanks for the hospitality. And every other month we'll be here. Every other month we'll be in the evenings in Port Orford. And this is something that Commissioner Pash and I pushed pretty hard on. We got a little bit of resistance, but I think it's falling into place. Very happy to hear, Director Smelzer, that we had a volunteer that says, yeah, I'll change my schedule. The citizens are our customers, and we don't succeed unless they're happy customers. And I think this board is totally sold out for that philosophy. I put a letter on all of your I wanted to say desk there, that we sent April 17, 2019 to Commissioner Chair Tammy Bainey, the Oregon Department of Transportation. They oversee ODOT. And We outlined in this letter, it's a page and a half in addition to two of the scariest pictures you could possibly imagine that has to do with the Huskenadden slide, which I think Ms. Lawson referenced earlier today. So as we head into a tough winter, we don't know what's going to happen. I'm of a mind to send this group, this board, another letter at some point, if the board agrees, to just simply say, man, you got us through a rough time last year, but we are concerned about an overdue, tough winter that we believe is coming in the next 3 years and how that might affect Huskenadden. My hunch is that that dike, you know, Commissioner Gold drives up there 2 or 3 times a week on that road, and I think it's going to hold. Now, maybe that's overly optimistic, but I feel pretty confident about that. We do not want it to go down the hill, and any kind of recognition that we can give them for the incredible job that they have done in Curry County. If you just look at the milepost 333 just south of Gold Beach, where the edge, the bluff went straight down, just 12 feet from the edge of the pavement, and they have done an excellent job there, and I believe that will also hold, Chair Pash. I want to give a little bit of a shout out to Josephine County. I'm going to take a little bit of credit for working with the commissioners over there, but the lion's share of credit, of course, goes to Director of Curry Operations, Julie Smelzer. I don't know how much they've actually contributed in kind to helping Curry County in a variety of areas. I just want to make sure that we don't overlook their effort to make a difference for us, and I think we'll probably get another time at some point to, I know I will, say thanks to those commissioners and all the people, the contacts you've had that have jumped at the chance to help Curry County. Ms. Weston Cow Davis is transferring from the BLM office in Coos Bay. I've got to know her and her staff the last 3 years. She runs an incredible program. She's being promoted to the district supervisor for Rogue River Siskiyou National Forest under Merv George. 6 county, 5 districts within that forest. She worked at the Coos Bay office for 28 years, and she is a huge South Coast advocate. So she's moving to Medford, and I'm going to see her and Merv George sometime Monday, and looking forward to that. And I want to congratulate her, and I think it's a good sign for Curry County. Saturday, October 26th, National Prescription Drug Take-Back Day. This initiative aims to provide a safe and responsible way to dispose of prescription drugs and educate the public on medication abuse. So there's a website. You can call our office. We can help you with that. I thought you were referring with Congressman DeFazio to the SRS program, where he has worked very hard. He's got a group of 72 bipartisan effort members in the U.S. House through his leadership to reinstate secure rural schools. We know that PILT, payment in lieu of taxes, is all but done, and so unless Congressman Wyden's bill comes through with, Senator Wyden, and along with Idaho Senator Crapo, for their, basically it is a foundation that will help rural counties, and so I certainly still have my fingers crossed on that. I just want to read just 3 or 4 sentences of Congressman DeFazio's press release. He said that Congress has an obligation to ensure counties with large swaths of federally owned, tax-exempt forests can adequately provide essential services for their residents. He said the SRS program is there as a critical safety net for Oregon's rural communities. He went on to say it is imperative that members from both parties come together to reauthorize the SRS program to continue payments that our communities rely on for their education and safety. In particular, that will be huge for Curry County. We're on shared receipts for the ONC 18 BLM counties. As you know, I serve on that board, and that is very good news. Hasn't passed yet. I think it has a better than even odds of passing, and I commend him for his work on that. I think that's all I have. Opioid epidemic gains scope and complexity. Join the California Opioid Safety Network. No Wrong Door for Opioid Safety, how to build an effective response in your community, to learn about innovative programs that use local overdose data to create real-time community response to save lives. That's also available in our office, how to connect with that webinar. And we all need to be educated on that. One more thing, had a little fun. 2 new logos here that I would like the board to take a look at. One, if I may, doesn't have timber, but it has the ocean, it has our bridges, it has our mountains, it has the sun shining, it has a fish. The other one has everything but the fish. So I just had a little fun with this. I'll bring it back to the board down the road. You know, they say that you keep a logo simple. Curry County has a very simple logo, but Curry County is not simple. So that would be a big priority with the board down the road. Thank you. That's all I have.
Commissioner Gold?
Okay, I'll try to make this short, sweet, and to the point. I attended a forum, a youth re-engagement forum today, and what's happening is the state is putting together a plan for Curry, Coos, and Douglas counties. It's a youth re-engagement program, and it's going to be serving youth that are 14 to 21 who have dropped out or recommended to participate by DHS juvenile court. And we're going to be involving students who are in that situation to tell us what can we do to help. It's not just going to be a bunch of adults imposing things on them, so I'm going to be pretty involved in that. Also, I had a principals meeting that's with the principals here in Curry County. Yesterday, it was interesting what came up as some of their main concerns, and I would say the 2 main concerns was the lack of mental health help in the schools. They need a person there to help the students because there's a lot of problems in that area. Also, they need a student resource officer, and that officer would help in setting up relationships with the children so that their attendance probably could be improved. At least this is what's happened in the past when they had that resource management person. Also, I've been attending SWAC and Beyond planning meetings, and there's a lot of public interest in getting some of these seminars going, and I've had all of the information put on the county website so that people can know more of what's going on. And that's it.
All right, with nothing further, this meeting's adjourned.
This mental health.